Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some, or ideally, a lot of money on the internet. Load up for discussion today. We have Trump's plans to make crypto a national priority. A couple of big institutions reporting, Bloomberg, New York Times reporting that Trump is very much considering Bitcoin strategic reserve executive order on day one. We'll dive into some of the details there in just a little bit. Number two, got Coinbase launching Bitcoin-backed loans via Morpho. We'll have a discussion on that in a little bit too, as part of the main headlines. And then finally, Abstract announces its on-chain incentive program. We will be doing a little bit of deep dive there. Any information that we've gleaned, what is going on with Abstract, stay tuned for that. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, plus our little sponsored segment today. Delighted to be diving into our Polkadot explorations once again. We did that last week. We're doing that again. We'll be doing it for the rest of the month too. Excited to do that, so stay tuned for that. We have got Legendary and Bread in the co-host seats with me today. We are ready to get into it, but just before we do, just a reminder, friends, nothing that we say is financial advice. This market is incredibly risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, we're going to go straight to Bread today. How are you doing, Bread? It is Friday. It is the 17th of January. How are you doing? How are you feeling at 4 a.m?
Quite lovely. I'm cold. It's a little colder up here. My house is empty. You may be able to hear a little bit of an echo. But you know, it feels good to have a home again. I sent a picture last night of like, oh, I have a space that's supposed to be my desk. I literally haven't had like anything that's been static since September. So like pretty amped on that shit. So yeah, kind of starting to wind stuff up. You're going to see me like turn into a real boy over the next like week. I think like I didn't plan this very well. So like showed up yesterday, mattress came yesterday, thankfully. Desk doesn't come until Sunday. I already have my monitor armed. Monitor doesn't come till like Thursday. So like it's going to be weird, but we'll manage.
Interesting. So logistical issues maybe just as you start out, but having said that, kind of hard to line all those things up as you've been traversing the world the last 6 to 8 months. So
I've never done it before. So like I don't know how this shit works. Like we have some pods showing up. They're here. They're in the city, but I cannot access them until Tuesday. So like I can go and look at all of my shit. Can't touch it. So until then, I'm just I'm just living in a box, basically.
Nice. Well, you have to document the reconstruction of your home and seeing how you kind of populate it as you go. Legendary, what's going on your side? How are things? How are you doing? You've been back home a little bit for a while now too. How are things as we go into the weekend with you?
GM Jim doing pretty well. Yeah, I got back home 2 days ago. As Brett has been just talking about his move, reminded me of my own move into this place. And I was happy that it wasn't the most efficient thing ever because I moved during lockdown, and lockdown in Vienna was pretty strict. So no reason to go out, not allowed to go out, except for very few exceptions. And one of those was actually moving places. And I was very happy, you know, they delivered a small thing. I had a reason to leave the house, go to the new apartment, get that in. So back then I was happy that took quite a bit of time because it gave me a reason to get out every day.
I like it. Yeah, that's pretty good. Good to have a reason to get out. Cool. Sounds good, guys. We are locked in. Let's get into, as usual, let's get in straight into the price action to get you up to speed with everything that's been happening in the space. Starting with the majors, we've got Bitcoin up a few percent to 102K. You've got ETH up a couple of percent as well to 3.4. Solana's up a couple of percent as well to $220. As usual, XRP kind of outperforming up at just more than 3% to $3.30. And again, for context, last 7 days, XRP up 40%, whilst your other majors are up 7%, 3%, and 13% respectively. Getting into the meme coin side of things to get you a sense of what's happening over there. Got Dogecoin up 10% today, back to 40 cents, which was its support just a couple of weeks ago. Pepe's up 6% as well. Bonk's up 4%. Pengu's actually down a couple of percent. Strange given that the rest of everything is mostly green. Got Whiff up 5%. Fartcoin up 10%. Popcat up almost 20% as well. AIXBT down 17%. That obviously had been on a crazy heater there where it went up like almost 50% or almost doubled actually from its lows recently on the AI side. So sounds like AI might just be cooling off just a touch, whilst everything else on the meme side has kind of moved up aggressively. Getting into the headlines themselves, as we mentioned, Trump plans to make crypto a national priority, according to various reports. We'll look at the Bloomberg note and the New York Times note as we discuss the headlines on the half hour. We've also got news from Coinbase, who say they will be launching Bitcoin-backed loans. Brett will be doing a little bit of a technical explanation of what's going on there, and maybe some different opinions of how people have perceived that coming to market in just a little bit. And then finally, Abstract announces its on-chain incentive program to earn XP for builders and users. Saigar actually tweeted out to say, just to clarify, this is only for users that use the Abstract global wallet through their portal and apps deployed on Abstract. Other wallet uses will not qualify. So they're obviously trying to push their full suite of products. You're going to have to use their wallet as part of any activity if you want to be participating in their rewards program, but we'll dive into a few more details a little bit later. Some notable sales: CryptoPunk hoodie sold for 150 ETH. That was probably the biggest one. Getting into the rest of the NFT market, though, Legendary, why don't you get us up to speed?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at the rest of the NFT market. Pudgy Penguins are basically flat, 23.9 ETH floor for them, just as yesterday, down a touch over the last 7 days, down 4%. Taking a look at Bored Apes, very similar picture, down 1%, 15.2 ETH floor for them, down almost 2% over the last 2 weeks. So basically, over the last week, so basically flat as well. Azuki's up 1.6% over the last 24 hours, up 5% over the last 7 days, 13.07 ETH floor for them. Doodles, first day down 2.12%, 5.08 floor. They had a run the last couple of days, up 10% on each of those days. And over the last 7 days, they're still up 5.4%. Jirasan, however, another collection I wanted to point out today, is moving up quite aggressively, 11% over the last 24 hours, 20% over the last week, flirting with the 1 ETH floor, sitting at 0.99 ETH. And once again, Kaito up another 10%, up 20% over the week, getting closer to the 8 ETH floor, now 7.85 ETH floor on that. And it seems like over the last couple of days, I've seen yet another massive increase of viral posts around Kaito, guides to get yapping, and more people mentioning that.
I like it. I just, for the first time, hit the top 20 in the Kaito main leaderboard in the last 7 days. Pretty fun to see. And yeah, I completely agree. There's been a lot of people speaking about it more. I think there was definitely a rush to sign up in the last couple of days as well. You guys have got exposure to the NFTs there. And I just want to say the Jirasan NFTs that you mentioned that have pushed up 20% in the last week, they've got is it the RDAC token coming? REDAC? How do you say that?
Redacted token coming, yeah.
Okay, so they've got the redacted token. So once again, another example of NFTs with token launches coming pretty soon, moving up in anticipation of those tokens coming to those NFT holders. Let's get you up to speed with everything else that's been happening in the space on the Web3 Roundup before we get to the main headlines for a deeper discussion. Big news. And in fact, there's loads and loads of big news today. So all of these things are actually quite important. Phantom Crypto Wallet raises 150 million Series C. This was led by venture capital firm Sequoia and Paradigm, valuing the firm at 3 billion. Some people speculated that might mean an airdrop potentially for Phantom Wallet users. Usually, if you want to participate in those, you have to have actually made transactions within the wallet. Not a lot of people do that because the fees are typically a bit higher, but that's by no means guaranteed. That's just some speculation. Anime Coin Foundation announces Anime Coin will launch on the 23rd of January. So that will be next week. We've got stablecoin titan Tether deploying USDT Zero, making transferring USDT across crypto ecosystems easier. That's going to be leveraging Layer Zero technology. We've got prominent VCs, Multicoin Capital, publishing a proposal to reduce Solana's inflation. It's a bit of a technical explanation there. Basically trying to adjust the emissions to reduce Solana inflation. Leading AI agent platform Virtuals was exploited. Creators could actually mint more supply and sell into the liquidity pool. So things have been halted there for a little bit. And I think they're trying to figure that out at the moment, but it seems to be under control as far as I know. Mega ETH DEX GTE raises $10 million, including 2.5 million from crowdfunding platform Echo. I saw many prominent investors wanting to participate in that and participating in that. And maybe Brad will be able to shed some further light on that in a second, in that he is head of community at Mega ETH. And then finally, VanEck announces filing with SEC to launch on-chain economy ETF. I thought it was kind of a fun name for a new type of ETF. So that's what they have done. That's the Web3 Roundup to get you up to with everything else. Before we get into the main discussions today, Legendary, around the headlines, I want to come to both of you just to get a sense of what's catching your attention from the other bits of news.
More so than one of the individual pieces of news, it is like a trend that I'm observing. It seems like a lot of protocols want to TGE now. We've seen a couple gaming TGEs. We obviously now have a date for the anime coin one. Orbiter financed the bridge, has also announced, bridge that two of us have been using quite frequently over the last couple of years.
Yes.
Has a TGE as well. So it seems like we went from not knowing how to deal with the inauguration and thinking that might be a seldom news event for the first days until the dust settles, actually having a bit of a correction before the inauguration, which made everyone relieved that that had happened. And we feel now more bullish about the actual inauguration event itself, to the extent that we've seen quite a few protocols. It's more than just those that we mentioned, having the TGEs coming up over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, isn't it? It feels like a lot of people have lined it up to be like, well, inauguration is happening that week. Let's just do something that week as well. Gosh, it's funny if you like kind of take a step back, that for all the planning and all the things that you do in terms of like building, the thing that is determining everything is like the election of a president and the date at which they're going to be taking office. Or that's how important people think it is. That might just be the reality. Brad, going over to you. Did you want to comment on this GTE raise or anything else that you are noticing or finding interesting in the market?
So the American thing, like we're going to see a meta start to come. We're starting to see it of like this, like, oh, made in America is bullish. So it's like you're seeing American coins pump, like they're a hash graph, and like you're all pump funds and like proudly made in America. So it's like people trying to say like, oh, if you're an American-backed company, you're going to be so rich because it's Donald Trump. So like that's kind of a funny meta thing that I'm kind of noticing. You may see some trends on it. Yeah, as for the GTE thing, yeah, obviously a super bullish. It's actually the USTO thing. If you go into their article, there's 3 launch partners. It's Inc., which is the Kraken exchange, or Kraken L2. It's Barrett Chain, and then it's us, Mega ETH. So like all 3 of us are good. Yeah, we're going to be the launch partners for them. And yeah, it's a compatibility thing. Go for it.
So how does it actually work then? So, you know, for the less technical people, I guess all people need to know is that USDT is going to be able to move seamlessly across these various chains. Is there anything else we need to know? Anything else interesting about it? Why it was U3?
It's a standard thing. It's a new standard thing. So like I'm learning this as we're launching Mega ETH, right? There's a lot of underlying technical things that you need for backwards compatibility for a lot of this shit. And it's why you don't see all these coins on every single chain. So like the way that Layer 0 implements their tokens makes it backwards compatible with a bunch of other stuff, makes it fluid between other chains. So USDT created this standard so that they can have a more fluid deployment across stuff. So like they chose Bear Chain. So obviously just things that they like the teams. 2, they have, they think they're strong. And then trying to create a standard across all of them. So like it's just meant to be something that'll make it more fluid throughout the ecosystem. And then obviously, largest stablecoin in the world. Why would we partner with them? Yeah, that was that. And then footnote on the GTE thing, just because I'll have info on that. Like, yeah, so that's our DEX, but it's like a multi-purpose thing. Because we're so fast, we're working directly with market makers, and GTE specifically is working directly with market makers to put them on chain so they can actually like co-locate with us, be really effective. And like you guys don't really get any benefits from that, but it'll like uplift the entire DeFi ecosystem, because these market makers can actually run on chain and manage the order book and not like lose their ass because it's too slow and too expensive. So it's kind of uplifting the entire DeFi ecosystem. And yeah, it's just another, like we raised from Echo, right? We did 10 million. They raised from Echo 2.5 million. I can't say too much, but I'll just say like, it's a belief of everything that we're doing on the chain. All of the Mafia projects, there's like 15 of them. we see it as like wealth generation is the thing to do to build a cult. So we're all finding the best way that we can to generate wealth for people that are aligned with us. So there will continue to be opportunities within us, for us specifically, the chain, but then also for all of the apps building on top of us that we've bet on.
Lovely. Good stuff. I've got one follow-up question there because I think that's very interesting, talking about the on-chain activity. But before that, just a general point for people who are wondering how they can get involved. You mentioned there are different opportunities. Like Echo as a platform, I think we're allowed to say this much because technically you're not allowed to talk about specific opportunities that are happening on Echo. But Echo as a fundraising community platform is an awesome one to sign up for. Someone messaged me the other day asking like, oh, should I sign up? There's no like one specific opportunity. Like there's just various people who put out investment opportunities, and you can kind of observe. And even if you're not investing, to be honest, I think it's a really good thing from an educational perspective. Like if you're looking to invest and you start to see what the terms are for people who are investing. So you're basically become a VC. You get to see what those terms are. You get to enter at the same terms. But even if you're not going to invest yourself, you get the opportunity to understand what those terms are so that you know when those things come to market, you know, these investors or original investors will unlock here at this point in time. This was the valuation they got in at. This is where the price is now. So I think it's a no-brainer at a minimum just to sign up and have a look. That would be my recommendation. No obligation.
It's a little limiting though, right?
Anything, right?
Even as a U.S. participant, like you have to be accredited investors. Like the bar is pretty high for. So the critique against like Echo is that even that, like, and it's no fault of theirs, right? They're just following the rules. This is how they have to come to market. But it's that normal people still are having a hard time engaging. And I will just say that we recognize that, and we are finding on-chain native ways for people to continue to get that level of exposure without, that's
like
awesome.
As you say, got to comply with the laws, and that means you can't like literally just open it up to anyone. So that is a fair point. Final point on it, Brad. We spoke the other day. We noticed this trend, which you were kind of laughing at when I was sharing the core data of decentralized transactions increasing against centralized transactions. It's not necessarily the case centralized transactions are total decreasing, but on a relative basis, they are decreasing against decentralized transactions. You mentioned all of this stuff going on chain via GTE. Is that something, you know, although we were kind of laughing about it, saying that you can't always trust all this stuff, a lot of this data is gamed in general, do you think that that is a trend that continues? And do you think that you're going to be kind of at the heart of that and other people will be pushing that as well?
So I would like to think that, and like that is part of the reason why you have such a high volume on centralized exchanges versus decentralized exchanges. It's just not efficient, right? So like I'm learning again the requirements of these market makers to be able to run a profitable business, because they're constantly send an order, cancel an order, send an order, cancel an order, and they're filling the book, right, just above and below whatever the price is. So because you have all of these transactions on a centralized exchange that are incredibly fast and basically free, like it's hard to mirror that on chain, because everything, as you guys know, comes with a cost, right? Depending on the chain. It's even Solana, right? It's 1/100th of a cent or ish for their stuff. But like if it's congestion, then that spikes to $1 or whatever. Things are going weird on a certain market. So, and that's not to mention the latency, right? Like, so if you have nodes all over the world and you send something, these market makers literally operate in single milliseconds, like to be able to say send and cancel, send and cancel, send and cancel. And if the node that I have to send to get my stuff on chain is at one moment in New York, the next moment in China, the next moment in Brazil, the next moment back in whatever, the latency goes from 50 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds to 5 milliseconds. And it's very hard for them to manage that. So you need a little, like the reason GTE is able to do this is because we have a little bit of predictability as an L2, and we can have our setup in static locations. Even if we'll rotate it eventually, like we'll have it move, but not every 400 milliseconds. It'll move every day, 5 days, whatever it is that we end up doing. So that's predictable, and they can actually like participate in that way.
Got it. Very, very interesting stuff. So I think we'll see that trend continuing then. And yeah, we'll continue to kind of bring that data up and explore that as we see it. Let's keep it moving then. Remember, we've got the main headlines to dive into in just a little bit, but let's go to our sponsored segment for today, our Polkadot exploration segment, Legendary.
Let's do it. Let's dive into today's Polkadot exploration segment. Today, we are talking about Pudgy Party, the upcoming game from Web3's iconic Pudgy Penguins IP, and Mythical Games, the blockchain gaming company, powering this flagship game on Polkadot. This segment is brought to you by Polkadot, a scalable, interoperable blockchain network governed by the DOT token and community. Polkadot is reshaping the blockchain ecosystem with cutting-edge technology and remains the 21st largest coin in crypto. So what is Pudgy Party? And more importantly, why is it on Polkadot specifically? Pudgy Party is an NFT-powered game set to launch globally on iOS and Android in 2025. What makes the game special, unlike competitive games, Pudgy Party emphasizes teamwork, where players work together to earn shared rewards. Pudgy Penguin CEO Luca Net says that the mission is to create an inclusive and joyful experience where players can connect and celebrate together. So players can use the Pudgies as in-game characters and customize them as they advance throughout the game. The gameplay itself revolves around dodging obstacles, collaborating with your team, and advancing your collection. So now to the most important bit, why is the game being built on Polkadot? The game's development highlights the scalability challenges faced by traditional blockchains. Mythical Games previously used ETH, but faced significant limitations in transaction throughput. They needed a blockchain capable of handling massive volumes of transactions simultaneously to keep the gaming experience as immersive as possible. And that's something that Polkadot excels at. To illustrate this capability, let's take a look at its sister canary network, Kusama. Kusama recently ran a performance test, which was dubbed the Spamming, and it achieved 143,000 transactions per second while only using 23% of its resources. This performance demonstrates the robust architecture of Polkadot and its suitability for high-traffic applications like on-chain gaming. But what else is happening on Polkadot? Because it's not only the penguins who are getting involved on that blockchain. Some of other Mythical Games' well-known titles, including NFL Rivals and the upcoming FIFA blockchain game, both rely on Polkadot for the backend. Mythical Games chose Polkadot to ensure the games can scale without sacrificing performance, offering seamless gameplay even during peak transaction loads. Shout out to Polkadot for sponsoring this segment and enabling us to explore the ever-growing ecosystem. We're excited to see what else they empower as we head into 2025 and beyond. Stay tuned for more Polkadot explorations in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. Shout out to Polkadot for sponsoring that segment. Also, shout out to Funky, who, as we are doing our various explanations each week, not only is he resident political advisor, Bitcoin advisor, he's also a resident Polkadot expert. Funky, thanks for sharing with us this opportunity to cover this game. Any thoughts, reflections from your side on what Mythical Games are doing on Polkadot?
GM gang, yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys covered it really well. As you noted, it's really a throughput issue. And this is just one of the many things where Polkadot has incredible tech that no one knows about. And we're trying to get more people to understand, like if you take the number and you maximize it, if you use 100% of the cores on the network, it's effectively like 650,000 TPS per, which is just an insane number. And, like data availability is all built into the stack. This is another good point too. Brett would probably like, Celestia right now, I think runs at 6 megabytes or something and aspires to get to 20 megabytes per second or per block. I forget the exact number. Polkadot today already does 40. So it's just, again, one of these things where we're trying to get other people to come explore the ecosystem, download a Nova wallet. It's the easiest. It's a great mobile wallet, super easy to use. And just excited for this partnership. This is something that, I try to bring you guys to OpenGov and get that sponsorship for a long time. So I'm really happy to help explore the ecosystem however I can.
Love it, man. Appreciate it. Did you want to come in there, Brad?
Yeah, Funky said my magic words, which is data availability, which everyone loves. And I'll just give them numbers since they're fresh on the top of my head. The numbers are like 3.3 megabytes per second for Celestia. It's 15 megabytes per second for EigenDA. And then, yeah, if they are 40 megabytes, that's where they stack.
If you can't watch the video, by the way, because we are streaming live on X and live on YouTube as well, that's Brad just closing his eyes and pulling these numbers out of his brain. That's not prepared. He has these numbers in his on the back of his eyelids. Okay.
Look, you don't fight Mert and then come to table without having some shit just internalized. I have this stuff on deck.
Yeah, for the number of arguments you get into on the timeline, like you got to know some of those numbers. Just quick question, Funky. I think you're only on Spaces. Some people I'm reading are finding finding some of the mics quite low. Are they okay from your perspective?
Yeah, whatever was happening with Legendary's mic in the beginning is totally been fixed. So I'm glad that we got that resolved.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you for confirming. Let's keep it moving then. We said we're going to get to the headlines. Got 3 important ones to get into. Legendary, you're going to take it away first. Give us an update on all of this bullish sentiment around the various things that Trump may or may not do in a couple of days' time. What are people reporting?
Absolutely. We touched on this previously where we said that there's been reports that Trump is planning to sign executive orders on the first day, on the 20th of January, Monday, when his inauguration will take place. And when we reported this first, it was more revolving around the accounting standards and the policy that we discussed on the show quite often, that crypto is reported as a liability. However, there's been a couple of updates to this from various media companies, Bloomberg, New York Times, both of them, as you mentioned, reported on that, saying that, first of all, Trump is reportedly expected to sign an executive order designating crypto as a national priority, and that could come as early as January 20th, Monday, his inauguration date. Also, Bloomberg reported that the order would mean that regulatory agencies would be guided to work with the industry, and yet again mentioning the Crypto Council, which Trump wishes to put in place, which we also had talked about on the show. And similarly, New York Times has reported the day before that crypto executives have offered input to Trump's crypto czar, which is David Sachs, on what ought to be covered as part of the crypto policy and the executive order, or probably the executive orders that will revolve around that. And that, again, is super significant from the standpoint that we kind of had this skepticism where Trump is going to take his presidency, with some people saying there's no way that the strategic Bitcoin reserve will be set up within the first 100 days, and that the expectations are way too high. But it seems that we are seeing this very bullish trajectory of having executive orders being signed from day one on. On the flip side, playing devil's advocate here, that yet creates another extra layer of expectations and pressure, because people now expect immediate action to be taken from day one. And if those executive orders fall short of what the market is expecting to be covered as a part of those, then obviously the market will be disappointed and react accordingly. So yet again, it's only 3 days away. We'll definitely be reporting on what will go on in the first days and weeks of Trump's second presidency. But that is the current status on what we know about the executive orders.
I like it. I just want to come in on that. I'd be curious to go to Funky as well on this, to get his insight on anything he's hearing on the ground, to the extent that there's like additional info. Because to be honest, when I'm reading the reports, I think there's a lot of nothing in this. Like, I don't think anyone is reporting anything concretely. So for example, I'm looking at the Cointelegraph report, where they're saying that Bloomberg reported on January 17th, citing people familiar with the plans, that the order would mean regulatory agencies would be guided to work with the industry. Like, that's not the same as saying that there's going to be an order like to buy Bitcoin. That's not the same as saying that there's going to be an order to hold Bitcoin. That's more like maybe some type of official, trying to make official the strategic importance of the industry and therefore providing guidance. But like, ultimately, I don't think that's anything concrete. And as I'm scrolling through those articles, I can't necessarily see anything that is. So I think this happens sometimes in crypto, where people say, that there's news in the vicinity of something that they want to happen, and people kind of make the leap in the reporting of it that it is actually the thing that is happening, rather than maybe something a couple of notches away from that. Look, it could happen in the sense that like it could be super bullish and this could be on its way, but I'm just saying I don't think what has been said in the reports mean what people are interpreting at this point in time. However, we have unofficial political correspondent, because ultimately we're not going to take everything that you say as guaranteed, Funky. But what's your perspective? I know you're far more well-read on the political stuff in the States than us. What's your take here? What are you hearing? What's your perspective?
Good point, and nor should you take everything I say as granted, right? That it's going to happen. But I will say this: obviously, very active in the Blockchain Association, the largest national trade group that is highly involved with all these processes. And at no point in the chat on Signal has anything like this come up. And normally, Kristen Smith, the CEO of the Blockchain Association, or Ron Hammond, the main government relations head of GR, is the first one to say something in the Signal chat. Like if there's something coming, like for instance, going back to the Digital Assets Subcommittee and the Senate Banking Committee, they dropped the full list of names of who was going to be on that before I saw anything in any of the publications, crypto or otherwise. So they are very much in the know. I have yet to hear them say anything about this. In fact, I'm even going to go in the Signal chat when I get off the mic to just look and double check. But I'm still very hopeful. I think it's going to happen regardless. Whether or not it's going to happen day one, I don't know. But I also want to just point out, once again, as much as I love Crypto Hayes, Arthur Hayes looks like he was wrong.
He does appear to be wrong, but then he's been kind of wrong and then changed his mind. So maybe if you change your mind enough times, then you must be right at some point, right? Just changing the timeframes. Okay, appreciate that additional insight, Funky. Sounds like a pretty unclear picture, if anything, to me. I know the market has definitely started to become more optimistic in the last few days. That's just the market being the market. Brad, before we get into your headline, I'm going to talk about Coinbase and Bitcoin in just a second. Any reflections here?
No, nothing particular. I mean, I honestly defer everything to Funky at this point. It's like he's my official correspondent. I've taken him from you guys, and it's so outside of my political arena that or just like technical arena, I guess I should say, that sure. I have to delegate that to him.
Okay. That's good. Well, I feel like we've given the information as it has been made available, and just making the point, I don't think it's as clear as people are making it out to be. But I guess we'll see. It'll be an interesting weekend of speculation, and then we look forward to finding out next week. Moving on, Brad, to something which is in your technical expertise. Coinbase is embarking on a bit of Bitcoin DeFi, and would love to have the breakdown of what's going on there and your thoughts on it.
It's true. Okay, so this one, so we'll just give you the headline. The headline is that there's BTC-backed loans that are being facilitated by Coinbase, up to $100,000 in over-collateralized USDC is what they're giving out. I'm just going to go verbatim on how it kind of works, just to make sure that there's no confusion. But straight from the article, when a Coinbase customer opts for an on-chain loan, their Bitcoin collateral is converted 1-to-1 into Coinbase wrapped Bitcoin at no cost and is transferred to Morpho. Which is the DeFi protocol that disperses the USDC loan or USDC loan to the customer's account in under a minute. So it's pretty quick on chain. You can use your smart wallet. Jesse Pollock was showing it off yesterday. Some nuances around it. It's available in the United States, except for New York, with plans to expand. It's BTC right now, and will be expanded to other tokens. But the interesting things to me, so like that's it, right? It's just high level. That's what it is. It uses a DeFi protocol. It's like DeFi in the back, CeFi in the front is kind of the thing, or the phrase for it. But thinking on this, right? Simple loans on chain. It's good. We want things on chain. I think about how this is going to impact Base specifically and the growth at Base, right? So like just thinking about that last little phrase that I said, where it's right, it takes your BTC, it instantly swaps it onto Base into Coinbase wrapped BTC,
CBBTC,
CBBTC, right? And then that is just going to be like a liquidity black hole for this stuff, right? It brings TVL onto the chain, and then that gets me thinking, like, okay, the biggest concern with all these L2s is the centralized sequencer, right? That's run by a company, especially with Coinbase, right? Coinbase is the one doing this. They have full power over this. It's like, okay, I see the liquidity black hole this could create. And then I go, okay, I know Coinbase has ambitions of decentralizing their sequencer. Like that's the whole thing that they've talked about since day zero, quote unquote. And the FUD has always been at one day, so like regulators are going to come knocking on the door and say, hey, person running the machine, stop the machine, right? For whatever reason. Could be litigious stuff, could be whatever, but it could happen, right? It's like, what's the fail safe for that situation? And I wonder if that day is going to be coming. There is currently for 15 billion in TVL, or TVS, as L2 has rebranded to, total value secured. If this thing actually does start taking off, right, people start trying to put their Bitcoin to work, is that bearish like actual Bitcoin L2s because people just do it this way because it's on Coinbase, it's nice, it's easy? Does it increase the TVL significantly because it is an actual way to make their Bitcoin productive? And then if it does gain enough momentum, at what point, what dollar figure do like regulators, I mean, thankfully we're in a climate now that it may not be as aggressive, but at one point do they step in and say, okay, now you have 20 billion, now you have 50 billion, now you have 85 billion. We should probably check what you're doing is appropriate, right? Because they've full power over this thing, right? They can censor transactions, they can do whatever. So it starts raising those questions of like, at what point does this magnet of liquidity raise eyebrows, and then does that cause issues?
Interesting. So it really depend. So I guess the thing that we're looking for is how much adoption it really gets. You were kind of going in the direction that I wanted to ask first, and then I kind of have a separate question on Coinbase for the both of you, more on the kind of personal perspective. But you mentioned that is this, rather than Bitcoin DeFi being the way that DeFi with Bitcoin develops, is this going to be the way that it happens? There's been strong arguments or big arguments in the Bitcoin community for a long time, like what should be happening with Bitcoin? Do you need to make there be economic activity with Bitcoin on Bitcoin? Some people have obviously decided, yes, they want to build out the Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem on Bitcoin. One of the thoughts we have kind of been talking about for a while is that, is there a very reasonable chance that Bitcoin DeFi, although denominated in Bitcoin, just takes place on ETH because it's much easier, because the liquidity is there, and it's just far more developed. Like everything is far more developed on ETH. All the man hours have been put in to do that. I suspect you're probably biased, Brad, in the sense that like you're fully building on ETH. What's the best argument, do you think, to make it a bit harder for you, rather than just you get to say, yes, I think Bitcoin DeFi is going to happen on ETH? What's the best argument to say that it should happen on Bitcoin, or that it could happen on Bitcoin?
My argument for that would be it's more of a pure experience. So, but like that becomes kind of
so it's more experiential.
Yeah, and like it
to do with
becomes more
ethos. It's to do with
yeah,
ethos.
it's alignment, right? At that point, it's like Bitcoin alignment as opposed to like actual functionality. And
so the people who are doing it would know that it's a worth experience, but they think that in order to be aligned with the broader vision, that would be, it's the better thing to do, even though the experience is worse, is what you're kind of thinking.
Correct. And like this has been kind of the bear case of modular, which is the same roadmap that Bitcoin and Ethereum share the same roadmap, right? They're both small base layer, build a bunch of shit on top of it. And the thing is, the further you get away from that initial core layer from Ethereum, from Bitcoin, the chain abstraction becomes a concept, right? They're like, oh, well, we don't really give a shit about what's underneath it, right? We don't care if it's on base, if it's on Bitcoin L2, if it's on, base L3, like it doesn't, like we don't care. We just want the functionality, right? We have distribution. We want the thing to work. We don't care. We never, the equivalent you always hear is like, you don't know what server your website's running on, right? Now that like I've never really agreed with that, because like there's a lot of conditions you're opting into whenever you're talking about cryptocurrency, because it's your actual assets that you're talking about. So like there's a desire for people to want to understand that. But it's the same thing where it's like, does it matter if it's a Bitcoin L2 or Ethereum L2? The people ultimately just care that their Bitcoin's productive, right? So like they're not gonna give a shit. And that's always been the bull case for Base, right? Base has the distribution of Coinbase, and now you have Kraken, and then you have Sony, and then you have all these things that are coming along that's like, they don't care, they just do the product, and the product just works. I think for on-chain users, like they will probably opt for Bitcoin native solutions if you're a Bitcoin person. The question becomes, is that significant enough to make the base asset worthwhile? Same Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? How much value accrual happens in that world where everything's abstracted away, all the way down to the very bottom, like the native asset, right? If you're swapping NFTs on Sony chain, like how does ETH accrue value there, right? How does Bitcoin accrue value on a Bitcoin EVM L2 that is abstracted away that you don't even know that like what's going on, right? It gets messy.
Interesting stuff. Okay. I want to throw to Funky, have his hand raised. He's obviously very adept not only with Bitcoin as a core asset, but also the building that's going around Bitcoin. Funk, I know you want to come in on this. Give us a couple of minutes on it before we move to the next one.
Yeah, just real quick. So the first thing I want to say is that, Fred, please don't flood our coin bags for more importantly, though, I do think that, to the broader point that's already been discussed, because of ETH and that's like this hybrid L2 where it's built on the OP stack. And not only that, but Coinbase itself, Coinbase Ventures, that arm, invested in Bob. It was one of the primary backers. So I really see a world in which both can coexist, right? Because as Brett talked about earlier in the show, it's so much easier to do things on a centralized exchange. And let's just admit it, for most casual participants in crypto, this is why they just keep their coins on Coinbase or wherever else, because it's just, they don't have to think about things. And the ability to just do it right there is easy. But for the people who are more native, who feel more comfortable doing things in the broader Web3 landscape, I love Bob. I do all my Bitcoin DeFi there. And I think it's going to be a long time before we ever get something on Bitcoin, right? It's like a 4 megabit block. Like you really can't even put much on it. So until we see OPCat and some of these other things that expand the functionality, because it's really just a script, it's not even like a hardcore programming language, I just don't, I think both can coexist at the end of the day.
Nice. Okay. Legendary, I know you want to come in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple more details on the loan side of things from Thomas Young, who's been reviewing that product. Interest is about 10% floats. Interest compounds on the loan continuously. There's no monthly payments. It's just a compounding obligation. The only thing you have to do is to keep the LTV, the loan to value, below 60% in order to not get liquidated. So basically, if you speculate on BTC going up, you take money, USDC out against the loan, you have a 10% interest and BTC goes up. More than that, you don't have to do anything to pay back your loan for the time being, as you won't be liquidated. Just that part on the technical thing. Another comment on the structure with the swapping into CBBTC to be able to access Morpho in the background. That is a question that some people have asked. Obviously, that depends on the country, but is this a taxable event? If it's a taxable event to do that, because you have to swap in the background and it's not a native borrowing against BTC per se, but you have to swap to CBBTC, then obviously that would make the product way more unattractive. Again, that question or the answer to that question differs from country to country, but that is something to keep in mind if someone wants to use a product to just check if you do a taxable swap by going from BTC to CBBTC, or if that's not the case for you. B, you are on mute.
Okay, always good to keep that in mind. Before we get into abstract in the last 10 minutes, which is a nice amount of time to do that, just want to raise the question with you guys. Have you seen how routinely at the moment, I'd be interested to see the comments in this, either on YouTube, which is going crazy today, YouTube commenters, shout out to you guys, really alive and well there, and also on X. Is anyone having issues with Coinbase? Like I've been seeing multiple accounts kind of tagging Coinbase saying, guys, my funds are frozen. Like I'm trying to get my money out, can't get it out and then you go through some type of process. When you are able, once they kind of approve you to get it out, it's like 2 months down the line or something. And it seems to be the case that there's a couple of occasions where, if you're very prominent on Twitter, you can kind of tag Brian Armstrong directly. Have you guys been hearing this at all? Like, is that something you've experienced either yourself or know people who are experiencing problems with Coinbase in that particular regard?
I saw it actually today on the timeline by a former Coinbase employee who had that issue.
Yes, that's what I saw as well, I think.
Yeah, who was saying that this is basically the wallet that he used, or the deposit address that he used while he was working at Coinbase, and suddenly can't withdraw anymore. And obviously you will have, the people who complain about that they have this issue and who have reach will go viral, will get a response, will get the issue solved, but it also biases the timeline towards you seeing this negative experience happen over and over. So it's hard to assess in the grand scheme of things how many people are affected by that. But it's something that has become quite apparent that a lot of the familiar faces who are using Coinbase and were withdrawing at some point faced an issue and have posted about that. But again, very hard to judge against the total number of users and to see how much of an issue it is. It looks, from my personal opinion, it looks like there is an issue with the risk assessment, but again, can't quantify how severe it is.
Yeah, I think what happens sometimes is that people are trying to comply so hard, and you're trying to tweak these things to make it just, and you're trying to make your company comply, and then sometimes you go overboard, and I guess you're flagging more accounts than maybe necessary, or they're ticking certain boxes. So we'll monitor that situation. Just wanted to keep alive to that, wanted to bring that to people's attention, see what people's perspective was. Let's keep it moving though. We've got 8 minutes left for the show today. We want to get it to Abstract, who have announced their rewards. So Abstract is obviously a very big L2, which is about to launch, brought to us by not only the prominent Web3 IP by Pudgy Penguins and founder Luca Netz, but also, if you remember, the technical team that were behind, I can't remember the name of the L2 now, Saigar and Beans. It was called Legendary.
Yes, I'm thinking. Give me a minute.
It began with F.
Frame.
That's the one. I really wanted to say Floor.
The NFT L2.
It was.
Right? Then Shape took that.
Yep. And then Abstract obviously acquired them. Now they're kind of building it out together. So very, very prominent L2. Got all kinds of attention on it right now. This is the set of announcements they made yesterday for their incentive program. So they said first, at the forefront, that they want people to have fun on chain, and their points mechanism will be by earning XP. They said incentives for users, builders, and creators have typically been short-sighted, fostering Sybil users, demotivating builders, and excluding creators. So Abstract incentives come in to deal with that. In their opinion, they say on Abstract mainnet, users and creators using Abstract apps and streaming via the Abstract Global Wallet earn XP. Builders will receive awards from the success of their apps. XP will update every Monday, so it'll be kind of a weekly cadence, rewarding your last week's on-chain activity. This does make me think of Blast a little bit, where there was so much excitement and activity on chain, especially amongst creators, that people were constantly trying to get this gold and waiting for the next gold distribution. And there'd be kind of a lot of excitement towards that. So this looks like it's going to be on a weekly cadence, which is cool in terms of generating excitement and interest. Abstract users earn XP by engaging with the chain and having fun. Although you're not being forced to do specific actions necessarily, users on Abstract will also be able to earn XP through badges for their participation. So this is an additional element which you probably want to know. There are 3 badges. There are 3 types of badges: flash badges, weekly badges, and secret badges. Builders on Abstract can earn rewards too. There are 3 tier of rewards. It's also got native streaming, so you can stream on Abstract and you'll earn XP. So if a user creates content around Abstract, they'll be rewarded periodically through secret badges. So I don't think there was a full breakdown given of what all of those badges are and how you get them, but just to know that they'll be involved. I'm going to stop there for a second. Legendary, I want to give you a chance to comment for your assessment. I know you said literally yesterday or the day before that Abstract is the thing that you're most excited about when it comes to new L2s coming for the market, at least most immediately. What are your thoughts on the announcement? Any particular points you found interesting? And then I've got some more specific questions.
Yeah, definitely reminds me to a certain extent of how Blast Gold did the distributions. Gives me a bit of PTSD when I remember our Blast Gold moon math that didn't turn out as high as we expected it to be. The interesting thing to me is the focus on their own wallet, which, to be completely honest, personally, I don't like it to be forced to use another wallet. From a farming perspective, I like it because some people will not do it for exactly the reason. So there's, a bigger piece for me of the cake to farm there. There's those 2 voices in my head, but again, personally, I don't like it. Farming strategy wise, I do like it a lot. From the modern market perspective, I'm very curious to see the details around the streaming, what that means. Is that just another channel that we can add, similar to as we currently are streaming on both Xvideo and YouTube? So that is interesting. It seems, and that is the main difference to me to the Blast side of things, that they have also from some of the background conversations that I've been having over the last couple of weeks, they have a way stronger focus on creators. Blast kind of had it as some of the protocols on there that emerged revolved around creators, and then they had the Blast Council later on, but it seems that is more baked in within the abstract incentive mechanisms to reward content that is being produced around the ecosystem. I'm curious to see if the partner for that will be Kaito to track that. If Kaito manages to pull it off, that'd be pretty insane, because then they have both anime and the abstract ecosystem. But I do like that creator-centric focus either way.
Okay, that's interesting. I've got a technical. I'm going to come back to you, Legendary, in a second, because I want to ask you, when it comes to streaming, because we've been trying to find this out. I don't think it's been immediately obvious. I'm going to ask you in a second what you would want it to be. Like, could the modern market stream on abstract? I don't know. It's just an open question. Could we? What do we need? What would it need to be? I'm going to ask you that in a second. But Brad, from a technical perspective, what do you think the importance is of incorporating the wallet? Like, I remember when Blast did their launch, they did all this stuff, and then they've kind of moved their vision to be mobile first and have spoken openly about kind of owning the whole stack. Do you think that's something that people are going to increasingly do? So far, L2s have just been L2s, but now you're kind of seeing people build a little bit deeper. How important is the wallet or capturing that when you're building a chain?
Yeah, I mean, so that's mostly a comment on like value capture and owning the user experience. Like that's where if you've been involved in these blockchain conversations, everyone has always been talking about where the value is going, right? In value growth. Is it the chain? Is it the wallets? Because the applications, whatever. And what happens is most of these people verticalize the stack, kind of like what Blast was talking about, what Abstract is doing, and what like Unichain is doing, right? So Uniswap started as a DEX, built a wallet, and now is building the chain, has the full stack, right? They have Abstract coming to market with a chain, and then also is building the wallet right into it to make sure that they can own the entire stack and maintain the user experience as best they can, because they know that it's like the touch point is the most powerful thing and probably the longest lasting thing. And once you have that, you honestly can do whatever you want, right? Pump Fund's kind of doing something similar where they can do whatever the hell they want because they have the user's interacting there, and now you have projects launching from there. You have all this so their user relationship has turned out to be the strongest thing, which is no surprise why they're trying to own that relationship. It's more to manage, right? It's a bigger task to take on that and a chain and a whatever. So it makes me wonder if streaming on top of having a good wallet on top, MetaMask has been around forever. It's not been great, right? Rabby came to market. Rabby's actually pretty good for DeFi, seeing stuff across chain, but now there's so many chains out there, you don't want a separate wallet just for Abstract. That kind of sucks, right? Is Abstract going to expand out? No. It was okay. Well, I don't want to have another thing. So that might hold me off from wanting to interact, which, as Legendary said, is probably good for a farmer, but not great for me. So yeah, it's not a surprise, but it is a bigger lift to do all that stuff. And you'll see more and more people do that long term.
That's a good point. I don't know if I'd want every single chain to require me to have a native wallet, right? That would be challenging. So
now you have a Blast wallet, and then you have an Abstract wallet, and then you have it right?
Yeah, that would be tough. Okay, very good points there. Legendary, we've only got 60 seconds left for the show today, and you've got a reminder to give, and I've got a shout out to give. So if streamers are interested or content creators, a lot of people are here with the view of improving themselves online in terms of creating content and getting content out there and making a bigger name for themselves. What would you like to see from Abstract in that regard?
I'd like to see them feature different creators, featuring emerging creators in a similar way how Kaito is featuring emerging yappers, because they have a very big community. They have very large, but also very, very small creators in there who are doing amazing things. So I'd like to see both of those being featured and having sort of a, call it abstract, YouTube, where you can jump on and see different creators doing their streams and having their own abstract. That to the first question. To the reminder, we yesterday spoke about the modern market community, which we had set up. We mentioned it only during the show. We never posted about it. I'm going to mention it again. You can head to the modern market profile on X. You can join the community. You will see a community banner. It's called the modern market community. Get in there. We have some very, very interesting plans for that. And also, as a part of that, massive shout out to Funky. Funky is the first person who had joined the community even before we mentioned it on the show. This guy never misses anything that we do.
Yeah, I love it. As Legendary said, it's a cool group that we're going to try and form there natively on X. I think one of the things we decided was that Telegram is a mess. Too much stuff's going on Telegram. Discord is like less active now. It's hard to keep getting over to Discord. Everyone's on Twitter all the time. We're quite bullish on X as it kind of develops and moves forward. So let's try and create the community over there. If you want to join, you just click the link, the community link on the Twitter profile, just underneath the bio, just above the first tweet. And then there's a little form that pops up, which Legendary created, which I really like. It asks you the question, what is the modern market? If you do a cool answer, we read every single one after the show and we really, really enjoy it. So appreciate all the people who've taken the time to join. Appreciate the people who have taken the time to fill the very quick answer out. And we look forward to kind of building this out with you over the next year. And to that point, that's kind of the extension of the shout out I wanted to say. Just to all the people in the YouTube comments, got Forve, Overarch, Just Stefano, Fred, Alex DeForce, Francisca. Appreciate all you guys. Sky Animates. It's like, I think it's just awesome. And also on the Twitter comments as well. It's awesome that, you know, although we come as prepared as we can for the show every single day, I just saw that, you know, the question when I said, what's the name of the chain? It begins with F. 2 people answered before you, Legendary, I think, as well, in the YouTube comments I just saw. So I love the fact that we can kind of just do this stuff and people are there on the ball. We think you guys are the smartest community around, and that's why I want to continue to build it out and build a community around you guys. In terms of the mint, I mentioned it yesterday. We are going to go on chain. It's not quite ready today. But, you know, there's no rush. It's not a FOMO-inducing moment. There's not going to be a mint that you're going to miss. And then if you miss it, you're going to lose out on multiple ETH. Like, it's not about that at all. It's going to be like a community building thing. It's just small. If you want to participate, you can participate. If you don't want to, no stress. That's the way we're going to go about it. There'll be more information coming from the main account or just on the show, like we gave that information out today. We've got 43 members in the community already. Thanks so much for joining us. If you haven't joined already and would like to, just follow the instructions we said already. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour, just like every other day of the week. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.